Evening, folks. No, it's great, isn't it? 17.4 million people voted to leave the EU. And we're still waiting to leave. And what reminds me about the Remoaners is that, oh yeah, we didn't know what we were voting for. Well, I thought I'd put the record straight. Why not? I voted to leave after reading the Lisbon Treaty, which actually comes into effect on the 20th next year, where it also states that under the Lisbon Treaty that Article 50 will no longer apply. That means Article 50 will no longer get you out of the EU. So is there any wonder why our MPs are now dragging it out till the 31st of December? Trick or treat? Or is that their plan? To drag this out until next year, then suddenly tell the British people that, oh, by the way, we can no longer come out of the EU thanks to the Lisbon Treaty, which Labour signed us up to. That's right, a Labour Prime Minister signed us up to the Lisbon Treaty. Didn't go through Parliament. Wasn't put to a vote. Was just signed, sealed and delivered in Brussels by a British Prime Minister. Yep, that's Labour for you. But that means that we've ratified that treaty because we've signed it. And that also means come next year we'll automatically be in. Does that surprise anyone that our MPs are in no rush to get us out of the EU? There are so many questions that we should be asking our MPs right at this minute in time. Do they really wish to fulfil the wishes of the British people? The answer is no, ladies and gentlemen, because they've all got nice little jobs waiting for them by 2022, when the British government, the House of Lords and every other single politician will be absorbed into the EU Central Committee. That's right, they will all be absorbed by 2022. That means they'll be getting their EU pensions as well as their British pensions, plus a fat cheque from the EU for delivering them the province of Great Britain. Yeah, that's it. We will be a province, not a sovereign state. We won't have a government, ladies and gentlemen. We will have European bureaucrats telling us all what to do. You know, the faceless, nameless, unelected people within the EU that actually run the EU. Yeah, great, innit? And then you wonder why none of us are shocked by our MP's tactics. They can't shock my generation, because my generation is the generation that have listened to more lies, deceit, spin, smoke screens and mirrors than any other generation. We're not Eurosceptics anymore. We're just government skeptics, because they've never delivered on anything that they've ever put into plan. You know, we've gone through, let's see, the Wessex scandal, Let's see. Oh yeah, 350 Chinooks bought by the Ministry of Defence that are still sitting in a hangar somewhere, rotting, because, oh yeah, they neglected to get the right avionics set up so that they could actually run it within the RAF. What a waste of taxpayers' money that was. But there again, my generation is so used to governments wasting money. It's unreal, innit? So broken promises, well, we knew this was going to happen, didn't we? But on a lighter note, who gives a fuck? I'll be dead in 30 odd years. But what will the next generation have to put up with? And the next generation of Brits will have to put up with, thanks to the EU, a shrinking economy, wages going down instead of going up, to bring us in line with the weaker parts of the EU. More and more imports into this country to force our economy to shrink. Oh, and don't forget, after 2022, Bank of England will not be running our economy, ladies and gentlemen. The Central Bank of the EU will be running our economy, according to the Lisbon Treaty. And the only time you'll ever vote is for your MEPs. Why should we fucking well vote for a showboat parliament that has no powers, can't change anything, can't ratify anything? They're just a glorified fucking debating society. That's all they'll be. So why the fuck should we spend our money on a European Parliament that has no fucking powers? What a scandal. What a waste of our taxpayers' money. But at least there's one thing, we won't be paying double the tax, because at least we won't be paying for the cretins, traitors that are already in the House of Commons or the House of Lords, because they won't exist after 2022. At least we will have some money in our back pockets by then, I suppose. And I don't know whether to say good riddance to the Houses of Parliament and to the House of Lords. Thank you very much for nothing springs to mind. And that's the point, isn't it? Thanks for nothing. Thanks for selling us out the river. Thanks for selling our democratic votes for trade. Thank you for selling us out to the EU. Yeah, you deserve your golden handshakes, don't you? And I just hope you get a big enough cheque to cover you for the rest of your lives. Yeah. No, does that sound sarcastic? Do I seem angry that politicians think that my sovereign rights, and they have the right, they think, to sell that to the highest bidder? Because they keep banging on about, oh, we have no written constitution within the United Kingdom. Well, here's a question, ladies and gentlemen. If we haven't got a written constitution, does that mean we have no written laws then? Because you can't have written laws without a written constitution. That's a good question, isn't it? I wonder how many people will ponder that one. Because we have written laws, and some of those laws actually uphold our written constitution. So we need a written constitution to have those types of laws, don't we? But according to our politicians up high, we haven't got a so-called written constitution of the United Kingdom. But we gotta have, haven't we? because that's why Scotland is a part of the United Kingdom, and so is Northern Ireland, because of our written constitution under the Three Crowns system. Yep. We can't call Cornwall part of that United Kingdom, actually, because Cornwall is a duchy. It's a royal borough, and therefore isn't part of the United Kingdom. So, what happens to Cornwall? What happens to the Isle of Bute? Because they're both duchies. They belong to the Crown, not to the United Kingdom. So if the monarch is going to lose her job as head of state, will they all move to Cornwall? Or will they move up to the Isle of Bute? That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah, funny, isn't it? Politicians have sold us out. They are not going to deliver us Brexit in any shape or form, because they're going to drag this out until the end of next year. And that's when the Lisbon Treaty comes into effect. So, yeah, why vote? Why put a piece of slip on a piece of paper that's fucking meaningless? Because at the end of 2022, we are not going to have a government in this country whatsoever, because we will become a province of the EU. Because our traitorous scum of MPs have already signed that treaty without even consulting the British people. I mean, that is an important part of legislation handed to the EU. That ends everything that this country has stood for hundreds of years. Plus our freedom of rights and our statutory rights under English law now suddenly disappears by 2022 because David Brown signed that treaty on behalf of the British government. Without any consultation to the British people. Our own sovereign rights destroyed, sold to the highest bidder. So to the next generations, say hello and say goodbye to your freedoms. Welcome to serfdom, because that's all we will be, serfs to the EU. Let me remind you a little bit of British history, shall I? The Magna Carta gave us all our rights we have today. It abolished slavery in this country because we were slaves to the nobles. We were slaves to the king. We were slaves and worthless. We were serfs. They could do with whatever they wanted to do to us. And yet when the Magna Carta was signed, that was the start of our judiciary system, our courts, our laws. Now you understand. Welcome to serfdom. Welcome to being part of the superstate of the EU and serfdom. Think on that one, ladies and gentlemen, come the 2nd of May. Do you think your votes are going to do anything? But I do insist you vote, just to test that hypothesis that our votes actually count for something nowadays. I suggest you either vote UKIP, the Independent Party, or a candidate who's an independent person, and try to change this farce before it's too late, before we all become serfs again. But not to our government or to the lords of our land. That wouldn't be so bad. No, to a foreign economic bloc who fancies itself as a fucking superstate, with an army, a central bank, and a showboat government that has no powers. Yeah. Here comes the fascist state of the EU. Long live the fucking Third Reich. And we all know where that went, don't we? We know what the Second Reich did to the Europe, didn't we? And how many millions of people died under fascism and communism. But here we go again. Who says we don't learn from fucking history? A superstate run by industrialists, for industrialists. Oh, and who are going to be the slaves of this utopia? Oh yeah, the common working men of Europe. Is that starting to make anyone fucking run? If I had a passport and the money, I'd be fucking off to the United States. Because that looks like that's the only true democracy left in the world. Yeah. Because we're finished as a country. We're finished as a democracy. Because we've signed that all the way to the EU by the looks of it. Now politicians are just playing smoke and mirrors. And they're just waiting and waiting to the 20th. 20. And then the truth will come out. But what can you do? Riot in the streets and get put down by German troops and French troops. I wonder that would be good for you, won't it? I could be wrong, but I'm fucking sorry. I don't fucking think so. Twice they've told us we'd be leaving. Twice now they've got a fucking extension. For some excuse or not. Think they're actually hanging on to next year when the Lisbon Treaty comes into effect? Mark my fucking words. I bet your bottom dollar that's exactly what they're doing. Das vote in the name of God. May he go with you in peace. Because let's face it, faith will be the only thing the working man will have left after the EU have fucking finished with us. Because we won't have a freedom of speech. We won't have freedom of movement. We won't have freedom of expression and freedom of religion. Because us Christians will be a second-class citizen in the whole of the European Union. Because Muslims will have it all. Good day.